Okay, here we are. We are joined today by former captain Trevin Reed, now the slinger of high-class automobiles.
That's right.
Um, and we thank you for joining us. You know, it's been a long time. You were our platoon commander for our second deployment. Um, and I'm excited to ask the questions that I would have gotten in trouble for asking 10 years ago.
Whatever, man. On that note, it's an honor to be with you guys. I think both of you guys left a very positive impression with me back then, and I was privileged to get to work with you. And what you guys are doing now with families on the personal front and this, just commend both of you guys for the efforts you're putting forth. The mission never stops. So, good stuff, fellas.
No,
Thank
it does
you.
not. And our mission, for those you've just tuned in, is just pretty much information that without emotion and veteran suicide awareness, all that other good stuff. So, but anyway, so we always like to ask everybody is why did you join?
That's a good question. Man, I was probably somewhere junior high, maybe early in high school, and I just knew I wanted to join the military. I didn't know. I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I didn't realize there was, differences in branches. So I grew up with a grandfather that was a World War II Pacific vet from the Navy. I had a grandfather that retired from the Army as a chief warrant officer, and then my dad was an F-15 pilot in the Air Force. So, um, I knowing that, some people tried. I was just dead set on joining the military. So I actually started at the Air Force Academy. I played football in high school, and it was my one chance to play football, Division I football in college. So I jumped on it and spent 2 years at the Air Force Academy. In the latter half of my first year there, I had so all cadets are required to box. Getting comfortable with like interpersonal violence, I guess. As
Yeah.
much as you may not need that in the Air Force. My boxing coach was an active duty Marine. It was a Major Rick Tiernan. I'll never forget him. Infantry officer. And one day after boxing, like he pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, do you like the Air Force?" I said, "I don't know." This is post September 11th, and so that caused a lot of reflecting internally on what I was doing. But he said, you ought to think about the Marine Corps." I said, well, what is it? He goes, well, here's what I'll tell you. They'll run your ass off. And that's pretty much as immature as I was. That's all I needed was some type of challenge. And really, I wasn't getting in the Air Force. So I reached out to a captain, officer, selection officer. The cross commissioning out of the Air Force Academy was closed at that point due to some scandals and stuff that were going on. So that was not an option I could pursue, like graduate from the Air Force Academy, get a commission in the Marine Corps. So anyway, I left the Air Force Academy, joined the platoon leaders course, and had my first taste of the Marine Corps through Officer Candidate School a couple summers later. But, like everybody, I was a freshman and, September 11th impacted me. I was a freshman in college at the Air Force Academy and saw the base get shut down, saw the fighters over the front range there in Colorado Springs, and knew that, our world has changed. And I wanted to do something more than what I was going to end up doing in the Air Force. And that was probably being in the acquisitions field, like every other football player that graduates from the Air Force Academy. So yeah, that's kind of a short version of my fairly long road from college life into the Marine Corps.
So were you always your career path? What you were always wanted to be an officer? You weren't going to go enlisted at all?
I'd actually really contemplated what to do there, and this is kind of where I enjoyed playing college football, and so I didn't necessarily want to give that up at that, again, immature stage of my life. And so I knew that was probably going to put me through, that was going to pay for my college and probably get me a college degree as long as I didn't completely screw it up and not go to class. So that was the natural You know, I had some people, to include my dad in my life, that were saying, hey, you ought to just, you know, finish your degree. You started it, finish it. And so that's kind of the track I got sat on. Was I was at least going to finish college. And, you know, where it took me from there was just kind of some decisions on whether or not to enlist or officer. I talked to a recruiter one time, and I remember getting the typical recruiter spiel, going in with a couple jobs that I would like to do, you know, infantry being like both of them, and getting the whole, yeah, you know, every Marine's a rifle, getting the usual recruiter speech. I'm not downplaying recruiters, but didn't necessarily have a warm and fuzzy feeling with the recruiter that I experienced, and so that encouraged me to continue. Finishing college, and on the officer side, what job you end up is largely on your own performance. If you know how they rank you at the basic school, you know, given you graduate officer candidate school, how they rank you there can largely determine what you do as a job in the Marine Corps. So I kind of like the whole control my own destiny. And frankly, leading guys like you guys, the more Marines I was around, the more I realized I've got to be the best version of me all the time if I'm going to, you know, get the opportunity to lead some guys like you. And that's the truth. And that's ultimately, I think, the decision maker for me was the more Marines I was around, the more I realized that I wanted to try to earn the respect and try to be the one that was put in charge of you guys. So, yeah.
So
yeah.
did you go to OCS with a degree, or did you do OCS and then get your degree after?
So I did.
That's how it works.
Yeah, you can go 2 6-week periods. I think this is how it used to work, or 1 10-week period. And the 10-week period can either be before your last year of college, or you can go in with the degree. So I actually graduated and was working on my master's coaching college football, which was something that I enjoyed. And so when I went to officer candidate school, I actually had my degree in hand, and had already begun my master's program, and was working as a grad assistant coaching football. So yeah, that's kind of the track I took. And the coaching football thing was just something that was always in the back of my mind. So I wanted to see if it was something I wanted to pursue.
Wow. Coaching, wow.
I've always seen a.
Yeah, you know, that's a lot of work, man. You're in the it's a 7-day deal, man. You're in the film room, and I'm the coffee guy. You know, around there bringing coffee to the position coaches and the coordinators, and you know, the game gets over, and everybody else goes out and has fun, and you're in there breaking film down. This is before all this smart technology and stuff. So you got 2 VCRs cutting, you know, recording on the different stuff. Anyway, and I'm not a tech savvy guy, never was. Not that took all that much, but man, it was challenging for me. So
yeah. I can't imagine you sitting still, brother. I can't imagine you sitting still, like sitting in an office.
That was tough. You know, I said I'd never sit in an office, and man, look at me now. That's about all I do. Yeah, it's crazy how
getting older sucks.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. Can't keep doing everything we used to do.
Yeah. It's I'm learning that the hard way. I'm still back in the PT, but it's just like I had to really change what the hell I do. You know, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The shelf life for guys like us isn't that long, and I'm telling you guys, like, it doesn't get better as you get older. So you got that to look forward to.
Well, I'm gonna keep hammering it out anyway. I think I work out more now than I did in the Marine Corps, which is weird, but I'm like, oh God, you know.
That's awesome, man. That's my sanity, man. Give me my gym time, and I'm okay for a while. So yeah.
So what was OCS? I mean, we don't ever get to talk to anybody who did OCS. What the hell was that like?
You know, I went through basic cadet training prior to, so I understood there was going to be some, like, you know, bed making and shoe shining and that kind of stuff. I would say the difference between my previous experience with, like, basic cadet training and officer candidate school in the Marine Corps is, yeah, we did some drill, we did that usual stuff, but it was very much focused on how physically capable can you be, and then teaching basic small unit tactics and a lot of leadership stuff. And I felt like it weeded out a lot of guys that shouldn't have been there. I thought it did. I mean, nothing's perfect, right? There's always the 10% that sneaks through, but it was a very physical course. I went there, I was running a 300 PFT when I went there at like 191 pounds. graduated probably a buck 78, and just had my guts run out of me for 10 weeks. It was I thought the course did a good job for um, from the second as a second lieutenant. You don't know a whole lot. Like, that's not a secret, right? And
Yeah.
so you start to learn that relationships where the staff NCOs are the ones with all the knowledge, and that's where CS really starts to impart, like, drill instructor, and then they moonlight at Quantico. But they're really, really good guys. So there's a respect for staff NCOs that's instilled in officer candidates, and it's not for the weak, the physically weak. That's for sure.
So is that where you learn the lesson that the platoon sergeant really runs the platoon?
It is, yeah, and then that's just reinforced throughout all the training. You guys, we've all seen functional platoons, we've seen dysfunctional platoons, and the functional ones are where the platoon commander and platoon sergeant have a mutual respect and understanding of each other's, like, strengths and roles, and it doesn't turn into like a dick measuring contest between the two. And that is exactly where that whole it's really ambiguous to me and probably everybody else, minus maybe the prior enlisted guys that were in the course. But yeah, you learn the value of a good staff NCO, and you see the daily interactions where there's a captain that's in charge of the platoon, but you hardly ever see him, and the staff NCOs are the one making stuff happen. And yeah, absolutely, that's where that respect and really understanding of how crucial those guys are starts to set in officer candidate school.
I was really lucky, with as far as my direct chain of command was, our first workup and deployment was at the time Second Lieutenant Willis and Staff Sergeant Canaway, and we barely ever saw Willis. It was basically only formations and stuff, battalion level events, and then in the field. And then I had for a few months after Iraq was Lieutenant McNabb. He was my platoon commander in Cat 1 with Gunny Lovings.
Yep.
And then I switched over to Cat 2 with you and Gunny Homer. So, I think, I've seen officers and I have experience with officers that, probably shouldn't have I'm not saying that they shouldn't have been officers, but they probably shouldn't have had the billet that they had. But, I have nothing but good things to say for the platoon commanders that I've dealt with.
Sure. I would say, man, I ran into Canaway at retirement recently, and then Willis, I was actually out of town, but Willis came through. He stores a bunch of his stuff in my house when he goes out of town. So he was in Africa for a few years and just got back. So both those guys are doing really, really well.
You contact Lieutenant Adams ever? Or I don't know what.
Yeah, so Rod Adams actually just stayed at my house a couple weeks ago. He's doing great. Emily, who he got married to somewhere around the time of our second deployment, they're married with a bunch of kids, and he's in like full-time. I don't want to speak for him, but he's doing some good things professionally and personally. It was good to catch up with him. And Homer, man, we were all fortunate to have a little Gunny Homer in our lives.
Yeah.
A war hero, literally, and just a really good guy. I'd say you guys were fortunate to have the experiences you had with some of those players. There were some really, really good quality guys there.
Mm-hmm. I was blessed with two really good platoon commanders, especially A-Rod, and I had to make a tough decision one time, and he was literally the only one who came up to me and said that was a good call, Caldwell. So that kept me going. So
he is, Rod's like, from the guys so Rod and I, at infantry officers course, he was the platoon commander for our platoon, and I was the platoon sergeant. So I got to work with Rod on a constant basis, and I have more respect for that guy as like a consummate professional Marine officer that really cares about his guys. And I would say that they don't get any better than Rod, that's for sure.
Well, hey, you're no pushover, my good man.
I'm
Yeah, you're
gonna.
just saying that because I'm on the phone. I appreciate it.
No,
You guys are
no,
saying that 'cause I'm
man.
on the phone.
Come on, no.
I'll toot your horn a little bit, but I think you gave me one of the best pieces of advice. We were doing, I think it was 29 Palms and that little like Afghan village that they had made.
Sure.
And we were doing some lane training, and I think I was talking to one of the role players, and I was talking to him through the interpreter, but I was talking to the interpreter, and you came up and you said, "Don't talk to the interpreter, talk to him." And like,
Yeah.
like at
Gives
the
you
time,
more wasta. I think that's Arabic for respect, right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
at the time, I was like, okay, it seems kind of trivial, but dealing later on with people, my wife is Hispanic, so a lot of her family doesn't speak English; they speak Spanish. So, and I barely can order from Taco Bell. So, like, I learned to make eye contact with the person that I was talking to, and then let her kind of translate it. And I think that's helped. I think a lot. Plus, it humanizes the person. It's not
Sure.
you're not talking through somebody, and like you said, it builds respect and a rapport with the people.
Sure.
So
Did you
yeah,
go to, what was it? It was your 1-4 your first stop, but from what I understand, you were known as the Cyborg in Bravo Company. Was that your first stop?
Man, yeah, that's news to me. I didn't know I was a cyborg.
You know
No,
David
that was.
Fish, perhaps? David Fish, ring a bell?
Yeah, I remember Fish. Man, he's a
We boot
knucklehead.
camp buddies. Yeah, he's a knucklehead. We went
Yeah.
to a buddy program through boot camp together, and that's who called
That's
you the
awesome.
Cyborg. Yeah.
That's awesome. No, yeah. So I graduated all the schools. Ended up as a rifle platoon commander, Bravo 1-4. And as we talk about staff NCO relationships, one of our platoon commanders in Bravo Company at the time was a young staff sergeant, Jordan Freeland, who's to this day my best friend. And I learned more about the Marine Corps and how stuff gets done and training Marines and from him than I'd ever learned in any school. And that's not taking anything away from the school. That's the quality of Marine that Freeland, who recently retired, Sergeant Major Freeland, is and was. So yeah, that was my first stop, Bravo 1-4. We did the Fallujah deployment, and then I was actually slated to be the XO at Bravo, and I threw a little temper tantrum because I don't want to be an XO, and ended up, I guess, pleading my case effectively enough to get a shot over in weapons company, and that's when I got to meet you guys.
I mean, you got sentenced to weapons company.
No, whatever, man. Given the alternative, weapons company, man, it's got typically has some unique challenges just given the mission set and what's expected, and then some of the personalities of the players involved always, right? Yeah, then that was probably the most fun I had was in weapons. That was a good group of guys, a lot of fun. But yeah, that's when our lives kind of intersected there.
So coming to a big old group of degenerates weapons company. It's
Yeah.
I'm glad you had fun.
No, that's awesome. I had a blast, man. You guys, yeah, degenerates is hardly the word I'd use to describe you guys. So, yeah, it was fun.
Well, I mean, you got broken in pretty pretty quickly because there was all the hazing stuff that happened.
Yeah,
and that
I remember that. That's
with the first couple months of the workup.
Yeah.
You had
some other stuff, some hangover stuff from maybe literally from some of the Iraq deployments. There's some legal stuff going on.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of, it was a pretty fluid environment for the first couple months. And Homer didn't show up until, I think the platoons had been formed. And Homer showed up from SOI like, I don't know, 45 days into my time in weapons. And he was a godsend at that point. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's I want to find Homer. I want to find Gunny Homer and give him my apologies for not being the NCO I should have been under his lead. But I mean, I know it's water under the bridge, but it's just on my bucket list.
So do you guys remember? So I've texted Homer. I shouldn't say frequently, but regularly. Have conversation. Him and Malin are doing well with the kids. They lived in Sweden for 4 or 5 years. Just moved back to the States, and he may end up landing somewhere around the area that I live and work in. So probably get reacquainted. Then Garcia was Staff Sergeant, then Gunny Garcia there. Do you remember him at all? He
Hell
came
yeah.
over with me from from Bravo Company. He's still in doing good things. I talk to him pretty frequently. Anyway, yeah, two really good, really good guys.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
I suppose it's probably just the politics that, like, because I do a lot of thinking too about, lately I thought about a lot. Talking to these guys has reactivated some neurological pathways, and I'm like, honest to God, I don't really. It was just I think they just didn't send us to Afghanistan. Basically, is really the real problem that I actually had. Not doing what I signed up to do for me. I guess in the politics.
I get it.
The politics
Yeah.
of everything, So.
So I went on to spend some time in Afghanistan. I say you didn't, it was Iraq, but more kinetic. And you didn't miss much, man. Honestly, it was. Yeah, I could tell you stories for days. I'll spare everybody that's going to listen to this, but yeah, it had its own set of frustrations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to, whenever you get a little bit more time, and if everybody's got to see that $1 million mugshot. We would like to hear you from Afghanistan. We would like to hear you go off on a tangent. Stafford just gave us some beautiful details of Phantom Fury, and so did Renfro. So
Stafford, man. Stafford's a U.S. Marshal now.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? Yeah, no, I love that dude, man. Great guy. Yeah,
he is.
He was a St. Louis cop for a while, and when stuff started breaking loose and some St. Louis cops got injured, I reached out and like, hey man, you good? Yeah, I'm good. I'm a marshal down I believe Tennessee. So good for him, man. That's no surprise.
That's an hour and a half. The Ferguson is an hour and a half from where I'm at. I didn't know he was so close all those years.
Yeah, crazy.
It's a small world, I suppose.
So, I want to talk about when you hit 1-4 and you get your first, command, your first platoon. What, like, I know from the enlisted side, when you meet that fresh officer that comes in, and the guys that have been there for a while try to, I guess, size him up and see what he's, what they can really do. What was that like for you? Were you able to basically just come in and take command, or did you get any pushback or anything like that?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think, one thing I appreciate about the Marine Corps is it's kind of an alpha male organization, right? And somebody's got to come out the alpha. And so I felt like that was my role on some levels. And so, yeah, I think I took you guys on a few of those runs, but the platoon I had in Bravo, great guys. I had strong squad leaders. I had an interesting initial go with the platoon sergeant. So I actually was able to replace him with Garcia, the guy I referenced earlier, and he changed the trajectory of our platoon and probably the company. But yeah, I think the first time you meet a platoon, there's some nerves firing, and then you go you go run, touch the beach, and come back from Horno, and then you don't really need to say much for a while. I think they realize that there's not, that they're not going to get away with too much, and so. Yeah, that was the deal, man. My Friday runs were kind of stupid looking back, but I had no libo problems from any platoon I was with or any group of guys I worked with, and I think part of it was like my goal on Fridays was to wear everybody out to where they couldn't get in trouble on Saturday night. So, maybe marginally successful on some levels, and the other I was just blessed with some good quality guys. So. Yeah, that was.
I remember you not sweating after like 14 miles. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man, I just hit it well, right? Some of those runs.
I was too far behind to see, man. I was too far behind to see.
Once you guys cleared, I'd go limping back to the company office. That's probably partially true, but yeah, it is. Again, the Marine Corps is an alpha male deal, and the Marines typically. Physical prowess is a language that determines a lot of that. And so, anyway, that was just I'm not the best orator or communicator, but I could run and work out. So that's what we did. Anyway, yeah.
So does it ever get old not being the bad guy? Like, if the LT messes up, it somehow is, the Lance Corporal's fault, or, or at least that's kind of how it's spun, I think, in my eyes, to kind of save face a little bit. Or, a good leader will admit when they were wrong and stuff like that. But,
Sure.
it's kind of, like almost like LT can do no wrong, at least
Absolutely.
from what I saw.
Yeah.
Well,
And if I owe you guys an apology for sins of the past, I'll tell you right now, I apologize. And that's a blanket apology. It could cover any myriad of things that may or may not have happened, right? So I would say, yeah, I mean, does it get old? Sure. One thing I learned from Freeland is, Freeland's probably the best tactician and best platoon commander I ever worked around. And he was a young staff sergeant at the time. And one thing I learned from him was he was fallible with the guys. Like if he screwed something up, he held himself to the same standard, and he held himself to a higher standard than he held his Marines to. And so, the goal I had was to not screw up, because the responsibility of 70 Marines' lives are ultimately on my shoulders. But the work required to be proficient across the things were that was something that I tried to take as serious as I possibly could. Yeah, I would say that hiding behind the officer, stigma, that get old. Yeah, it got old. Some of it's a requirement, the whole command presence and the distance that leaders keep from their guys. So if they have to make hard calls, some of that's, requirement. Some of that was, just the nature of how things are set up. But did it become old? Did it get old being the guy that was kind of behind the curtain? Yeah, honestly, it did. Yeah.
To throw something out there, it's like I've gotten to the civilian world and taken looked at leadership roles and been a part of stuff, and then it's easy for it's not easy being a leader because you can't get personal. I mean, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, for lack of a better word, you can't get personal. You really can't get too close. You got to keep everything at distance. And so some subordinates don't understand is that it's something America doesn't understand, in my opinion, is that one leader is not going to fix the entire country. It is everybody has to take a look at their own individual actions and own responsibility. So, that's coming into this, in my opinion, because everybody, American people is like,
no, I think you're spot on.
Yeah. So, I mean, I came into this, like I said, I came into this podcast thinking like a subordinate, and then now I'm kind of like, I know, but I knew better before the podcast, but we know better now that it's individual action. There's something we all, I don't know about, I'm not speaking for you, but I know there's definitely a lot that I could have done better to make my experience better. And so that's,
well, I think that's the nature of it, right? Self-reflection is where learning really sets in. So, I mean, there's 18 billion things I could have or should have done better when we were working together. And some of those, like, some of the harsh debriefs we had behind the scenes regarding individual actions from platoons, decisions platoon commanders made, are, were very harshly critiqued. And I think that's healthy. But you're right, on the micro level, if we want to fix America, we want to fix all the stuff going on, it starts with us being the best Americans we can be. And that's just, JFK, it's a selfless ask. But if that's what we're looking for, that's what it requires, right?
Yep.
Anyway.
Our real heroes are dead for their beliefs. Okay, like JFK got shot in the head for his extreme. I'm using quotation marks.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, we could all what is it? Ask not what you could do for your country, or something like that. I messed it up.
Yeah.
Ask not what you can do for your country, but what you can do for. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
That's exactly right.
So I wanted to go back real quick. It was brought up about, you have to keep that distance so that you can effectively basically order, your men into combat. you know, that's the job in the infantry, right? Is to fight.
Sure.
We are fighters.
Kill people and break their stuff. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you know, for people listening, you know, it's not like we on the Mew we had a lot of downtime and we very rarely saw you, and
Sure.
that is, you know, I mean, that had to be kind of rough for you. You know, I'm sure you were bored. You know, up in your berthing, you guys had. I think you probably had less space than we did, and your guys' you know, there's like what 3 guys or 4 guys in there.
Something like that. Yeah. I
But
think
you
there was
know,
4 of us in there. Yeah.
just not being able to like come down and shoot the shit with the platoon must have been rough because you know we had 30 guys that we could hang out with the whole time, like, and it's, you know, I'm a student of history. I love reading, you know, different command strategies and stuff like that, all the way back to the Revolution. And that's kind of a main topic, is that the commander has to basically be unattached from his you know, his people, so that he can, or she can, send them into combat and possibly be hurt or killed. What is that like, you know, knowing that these guys would, you know, we're all brothers and we all have the same mission, but you ultimately have the responsibility.
Yeah, that the pressure is real. I would say, you know, a lot of, you know, the reason why you probably didn't see me a lot on ship was, you know, officers love PowerPoints, right? And MU staffs really love PowerPoints. And so, if you can imagine all the contingency stuff that we were looking at, every single one, you know, involved like a 5,000 page PowerPoint presentation. And I learned pretty quickly in the MU workup that you can't just put like a big blue arrow and an objective. Like, the MU staff, for whatever reason, wants to see all kinds of detail. You know, a whole nother topic of conversation, which I could jump. You know, I could spend hours on trusting subordinates, train them and trust them. Right. We didn't feel that we weren't all that well trusted. Anyway, so there was a lot of PowerPoint construction. There was a lot of equipment that was issued to the platoon. You probably saw Homer more than you saw me at that time, but it was probably like with the section leader signing out ECR cards for non-lethal riot gear we would get, and then have to get it all taken back up, and then we'd have to, you know, do whatever. I think we ran all the ranges for the artillery guys while we were there, which, you know, all we are is the RSO, or OIC is the fall guy. And anyway, we all that stuff was happening. So yeah, there was plenty of time in working out, and there was a lot of PowerPoints being constructed, and then the subsequent complaining about the PowerPoints being constructed inside my room. So yeah,
and not
that was
again,
kind of,
not an office guy. This is definitely
yeah. I mean, that's not my DNA. But yeah, I would say the responsibility of being entrusted with, I mean, essentially your lives. Like, when we all sign up, we sign up and sign a blank check. You know, I've heard Eric Willis say it many times. He coined this, I think. You know, when a Marine joins up, you sign a blank check for the amount up to and including your life, right? So, and that responsibility is passed to, in your guys' case for a period of time, is passed to me. And that's the weight of that. You know, my wife remembers, you know, we were newlyweds through my first deployment, and, you know, thank God I didn't have anyone killed on that deployment, but had several guys get hurt. And those things weigh on you. So did you make the right decision? Should I have gone left and I went right? Like, you know, what all the factors that go in, and you armchair quarterback yourself to death over some of those decisions. And then you hopefully you don't get paralyzed by them, but you learn from them, and you are able to make a better decision or a better educated decision the next go around. So yeah, I mean, the pressure of you know, the passion of command outlines it a little bit. That book by Lieutenant Colonel at the time, McCoy. But I would say it kind of starts and stops short of what it really feels like, and it's hard to really capture that. But yeah, there were some sleepless nights and some regarding that pressure and responsibility. From the distance aspect, I would say you know, it there is a need to have a certain amount of distance. My approach was never to hide behind it. Get to know. I want to know the section leader specifically. I want to know the vehicle commander so that uh, I can kind of understand how you guys process things, and so collectively we can make the right decisions. And the more I share with the section leader specifically, when it comes to like collaborating about a mission set or something, uh, then the better off we are because we have a baseline understanding of each other's, backgrounds, personalities, strengths, interests. You kind of get a gauge. You got a guy like Corporal Purchase, Sergeant Wilson, like they're going to be aggressive, right? That's not all bad. But those are two examples that really, in getting to know them, they're going to push the envelope. You hope in a solely good way, but they're going to push it. And knowing that, like, it helps to maybe lead more effectively through understanding guys' strengths and kind of what makes them tick, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hell
So,
yeah.
one thing that we did go through together was the shellback ceremony. When we crossed the was it the international date line?
It's the equator.
Is
The
it?
equator, yeah.
Okay.
The equator.
So you might not remember this, but I was. This is like when I saw the fury of Lieutenant Reed almost come out. Was I think we had just went through the chow hall on the ship, and they made us, low crawl through all this, gross shit.
They didn't make us. They
yeah.
gave us an option to
Yes.
participate.
They gave us the opportunity to low
Yeah,
crawl through.
they gave us the opportunity.
And we were like lined up, I guess, waiting to go to the next little station. And we were by, if you remember, where like you put your dirty dishes and stuff like that when you were done, they had like the window there. And we were like joking around or something, and some Navy lady came up and like threw a glass of water in your face. And I thought that you were gonna explode and like send somebody through the bulkhead.
You didn't see where she tried to do it again, and he just like grabbed her hand and said,
"You like
I do remember that." Yeah,
palmed her hand down." But I was like, "Oh man, like this."
And she was like, "What? This is absurd! This is my third time crossing the equator, sir."
Yeah. Yeah, so what you guys probably weren't. Yeah, I do remember that. I have a scar on my back from somewhere in that ceremony. I don't know. I got mad and got into it with one of the Navy guys, one of the chiefs or something. And in the process of wrestling with this guy, I ended up cutting my back on something. Anyway, yeah, that was a memorable thing. But what you guys didn't see up to that point was the contention. So I hate about how the Navy does things. I mean, obviously, I appreciate the United States Navy. Okay, so get that out there. But how they do things is not the same as the Marine Corps. Like officers, feed the horses, feed the troops, feed yourself. That's drilled in our head from day one. So you go on a Navy ship and you go to eat in the wardroom, which is like really nice utensils, and you're actually served by enlisted sailors and Marines. And it made me irate that you'd have these young Navy officers who, God bless them, they don't know any better, maybe, but would be like dictating they want more salt on their whatever to one of my machine gunners or 52s. And I get, there were some really tense conversations in the wardroom on that deployment. Like, maybe some threats made. I remember a fork getting stabbed in one of the tables, all regarding how our Marines were being treated. So by the time we hit that shellback ceremony, I would say I was probably not a U.S. Navy fan at that point. And then I have some chick who, she didn't know what combat even means, throw a glass of water in my face. And when I get pissed at her, she tries to do it again. Yeah, that was over the, yeah, anyway. I mean, whatever. We got a certificate, I mean, come on, guys. Like, it wasn't that the water was getting thrown in my face. It's like this condescending tone that every Navy officer in chief had on the ship, that by that point I was ready to explode. So anyway, yeah.
And see, like, that's that neurological pathway is being paved to just like, so we take it out on our leaders. Okay, we take it out on our leaders, but then there's those other things that play, like getting treated like crap. I remember going cranking. They tried to put me in the gunny mess, and they said, save me some watermelon crap for later. And this was immature of me, but whenever I gave the watermelon I had saved for later, I had punched into oblivion and into mush and put it in the refrigerator. And then they're like, well, and then we get to some things. They try to make me do the Chiefs laundry, and some things may or may not have turned up missing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so they put me into the
No,
regular
I mean,
mess, which was
that's what
fine.
separates the Marine Corps, is that kind of mentality. Like, we're not going to get pushed around. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to push me around. Nobody's going to push my Marines around. To
Yeah.
this day, I drink coffee. If I say this on this podcast, it may get me in trouble. So I stole the ship's captain's coffee mug, which is a whole nother set of – they all have their own coffee mug. So almost every day I drink coffee out of the captain of the USS LSD 52, the USS Pearl Harbor's coffee mug. And every time I think of it, it kind of makes me chuckle because I stole it while we were on the deployment, and he had made a big show out about not having his coffee mug, which there's a million other coffee mugs there. Get over it.
But see, you couldn't tell us this while we were in because that would have taken away our view of the Navy leadership that we had to follow. So for us, it might have felt like you guys weren't exactly sticking up for us and we got a little butt hurt. But after hearing this story, it's like, yeah, he was one of us, you see. And it's nice to get that clear.
I promise you, the biggest fan, the biggest advocate for the treatment of our Marines was Major Schiller. And I remember there was one time in the wardroom where comments got made, and I kind of mouthed off, and the ship XO, who's a 04, whatever that is in the Navy, says something to me, so I have to, shut up. And then Schiller sitting next to me, he jumps in and goes right back at the XO, the ship's XO, and I thought the two of them were going to throw down in the wardroom. And I mean, Schiller was a bad man.
Yes, he was.
And
probably still
Mustang,
is.
right?
Yeah. Like American Gladiator contestant, like all kinds of the dudes live the life. But man, I would say that there's part of that Saving Private Ryan outlines it pretty well. Bitching goes uphill, not downhill, right? So we would express our frustration via semi-appropriate channels, I would say. But it got to the point on this stupid coffee mug that they were about to do a shakedown and go through all of our rooms, and the ship's captain is like God's small G when the ship's underway. It could have sentenced me to bread and water had he found it. You know what I mean? Like,
we totally would have smuggled you in some granola. I know Hale love that granola.
That's it, man. I appreciate that. No, I would say that there was a lot of tension on that deployment between the Navy and the Marines in general. But the Gunny Homer and the Chiefs mess, they were having their own struggles that he filled me in on, and we were having our own in the wardroom, and I know darn good and well you guys were as well. So yeah, and I would say that back to that pressure of leadership, like it comes from sticking up for our guys too, and that was something that I mean,
well, and also you're not you want to it sounded like it's like you wanted to be part of the Marine group, but you just can't be. You literally just can't. It's like you're actually having to do the right thing, and that's what it means. Is like
in the public eye, you kind of have to do the right thing. There was
You could have been petty and said, okay, well, screw the Navy. But you didn't, and it was hard for all of us. And it was, but that I'm hearing you tell us this makes me want to do. I'm doing a cartwheel right now.
I appreciate that. No, I'm actually glad you guys. I'm glad that you guys weren't subjected to more, because ultimately, if we blow it, it gets taken out on you guys. So yeah, being a professional, that was always Schiller's thing to us was. Hey, just be a professional. Like if you get angry at something, voice it, but be professional about it. And he was right. And I mean, in that circumstance as well as life. So yeah, there were some tempers flaring. That's for sure.
Well, dang, man, and we didn't know anything about it, and it's just I love this. This is amazing for me anyway. I don't.
You remember the LAR platoon commander, Freddie, Matt Frederick.
Yeah.
So I talked to Freddie pretty consistently, and Freddie and I, and Nate Gouache, the Anglico guy.
Oh yeah.
There was one time we were up, hanging out on top of the ship, and some Navy ensign, Gouache is a captain at the time, tells us to go away. I mean, something really flippant, and And I thought there was going to be a fight on the side of the ship. Like Goulash is seeing red. Like Freddie's getting an angle to punch this guy. And I'm thinking like, man, we got to chuck this guy over the side of the boat if he hits.
Yeah.
We're going to end up in big trouble. We're going to make it look like an accident, right? So, yeah, there was a lot of tension there. That's for sure.
Fucking ensigns, man. Ensigns are just
they're worse than second lieutenants. I'm telling you.
I had so many run-ins with him, and it was like, dude, I just wanted to be like, dude, get out of my face, like,
right,
like fucking,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
you've been in what, like, fucking 3 weeks, and like,
yeah. That's real, man. That's real, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's things that didn't have to, like, I remember on a working party, it's like they were trying to do it as punishment or something. And I was like, wait, I get to go out on top of a ship and just bash the deck up? I'm like, that was fucking awesome. Like, working in the chow hall, not the Chiefs mess, but that chow hall shit ain't no, like, they're the first they got a lot going on, and their job is important too. But,
sure.
You know, I don't know what we do to make them feel so insignificant to where they have to just attack, you know, I remember I was showing some Marines just some of the basic, some of the, Arty Marines, just kind of, some of the basic formations and the cross cover, you know, the concepts of cross coverage and shit like that.
Sure.
In the chow hall, and then, you know, they're like, "Oh, you guys have to go die." I was like that's a fucking insult, bro. Like that's a fucking insult. Like,
you know what it is? It makes them feel insignificant. They wake up in the morning, they have to look at themselves in the mirror. That's what makes them feel insignificant.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was probably a little cold, but maybe some truth to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know what because I know who I am. I'm Corporal Nice Guy, bro. I did nothing to make any, you know, I always try to I go by the good book of building everybody up. I build those up.
Sure.
So it's just, but anyway, yeah, it's this, so that, but what that represents is actually our culture, you know, and getting out for me was trying to get away from that. But that's in our culture today. That is in the real world. Everybody thinks they know better, or my job's more important, or this, that, and the other, and blah blah blah. It's like we all, like, you know, if I wasn't signed up to be the bullet sponge, then you'd have to go do it, and that's obviously something that you don't want to do. So why you gotta, you know?
No, yeah, I shouldn't have been so flippant by saying they have to look at themselves in the mirror. But the reality is, yeah, we all have our role that we play. We need each other to play the role as effectively as we can individually. Some roles are just cooler than others, and that's the reality of it.
That is the reality. Yeah, it's not my fault we're cooler.
Also, coming from a you know, being in basically a grunt camp where it's, you know, a lot of the times it's billet over rank. You know, you could have a lower guy in charge of a higher ranking guy, just based on what his job is. So when you get, you know, an ensign or whatever talking shit to an E3 or an E4, it's like, dude, I'm in, you know, I have people's lives at hand. You sit and watch a computer monitor all day. Like,
right.
And we're not the ones making fucking measurements either. We're not the ones saying this shit. You guys are coming at us normally. So whatever.
Well,
Whatever.
If you remember,
I feel like there's some underlying issues. Maybe we should all get some therapy over this time spent with the Navy. Yeah.
I couldn't have made it through. I wouldn't have made it through the damn Navy without a bad contact or a couple busts.
Oh man,
I wouldn't have made that.
I'm with you.
So we're gonna do.
We're coming. Are we coming? We're probably getting close to.
Yeah. How much time you got left?
You guys are good, man. This is it.
I want to run through what we call the Rambo scenario. Okay. Which is, so you said your son plays football, you're the coach. So we're going to say it's a, you know, Saturday afternoon, you're at the football field, and all of a sudden a helicopter lands. Who has to step out of the helicopter to get you to go on one more mission? You remember how in Rambo,
it wouldn't take much. Yeah.
In Rambo, the colonel gets out and he's like, "We need you for one more, Johnny." And he, you know, he comes back.
I'd say just about anybody I worked with previously. You know, I went through the time where I was probably a little bit burned out with work up in deployment, and, you know, everything that comes with combat deployments, loss and everything. So I'm far enough removed from that. I think I still got one good one left in me. You It honestly wouldn't take much. If any of you guys showed up, if any of the guys I work with in Bravo Company showed up, if any of the guys I worked with after I left 1-4 showed up, like I'd probably do it.
No
My wife's
shit,
gonna
man.
listen to this and get mad at me, but that's when this whole like ISIS thing in Syria, northern Iraq,
Yes.
they're killing Christians, man, and all those guys are signed up to go over there. I went through like a 48-hour period, like screw it. I don't know if I have to work for the rest. Yeah, we could probably be okay if I stop working for the rest of it. I'm just gonna go do that. That's something worth like, laying it on the line for. Yeah,
It is. I agree.
And-
That's wow.
yeah. So I mean, obviously I didn't do that, but
I tried, brother. I tried. I didn't know where
Did
to
you?
go. I tried it so hard, and I just didn't have
Yeah.
any connections with anybody anymore because I was living under a rock after that. I was in college, but yeah, man. And I tried to get back into the Marine Corps.
There's a lot of guys that we
months
served
ago.
with that went back in.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Musto was back in. Wolf is trying to go back in. Obviously, he's
Yep.
going for basically a complete 180 of what he did prior. But Chavez, Waywood, Gill.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Gil, that's awesome. No, that's good. I would say that, man, like once you get out and kind of you go through that decompression cycle where you kind of flush your mind of all the junk you dealt with, and then once like that kind of wears off, it's in all of our DNA. We signed up for a reason, right? We signed up because we like the mission. We like to protect people. We like to fight for things that are worth fighting for. It's just how we're made up. And so, once you flush all the junk after you've been out for a while, I would say that the urge to get one more good one in is there, and you forget about the consequences as time goes on. But yeah, it wouldn't take much to get me on a helicopter with any one of you guys.
Yeah.
Something worthwhile, man. Let's go. I'm in.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have the chance to go back in, but I got paper fucked the week I got out. So I got
What happened?
First Sergeant non-wrecked me like 2 days before I got out.
Was that Taylor?
Yeah.
No.
Harper.
Oh, even better.
So
yeah. Anyway, I'm not.
Yeah.
I've said some over the podcast. I've said some things that
he's going to be on soon.
Yeah, we're gonna get him on, and I'm not. I said some things out of anger, so I'm basically, if you look at me, I'm the worst case of probably what not to do. But I went out and said it, and I'm ready to back up what I said, and I'm ready to I'm ready to face down anything basically.
At one point in time, I was the most senior Lance Corporal 0352 in the Marine Corps because I was a Lance Corporal for 7 years as a 52.
So when you guys get Harper on, ask him why he always wears pistol holster backwards.
That's another
Fully
one.
pointed
We have a
at it.
list of these questions, like how he wore a woolly pulley in Kuwait without sweating, why he never made eye
it's like
contact.
120 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Make him answer the mail on that stuff. Anyway, yeah. I'm not sure which one was worse, Harper or Taylor. I can say that now. Like, there's no professional distance needed here. Both those guys were abysmal, in my opinion, professional and personal opinion. So yeah.
I mean, I like, yeah. I'm not gonna get into it because I know Taylor was definitely shady. I already know he's been caught. He was giving us briefs, crucifying us about if we were going to cheat on our wives, but then he was allegedly caught at some swinger party naked by another guy who was caught with steroids in our platoon that magically got off. Which I'm not saying steroids are bad, but in the Marine Corps, he was caught with needles in squad bay everywhere, and nothing happened. So because he had allegedly saw him out on town at a swingers party. So
well,
I mean,
in Iraq, I was when I was in PSD. He would we would always be like, "Hey, First Sergeant, you coming out with us today?" And he'd be like, "Nope, I got things to do." And when he did come out, he would almost pass out every time we hit a pothole or anything. And it was like, man, if we thought that we couldn't give you any more respect, you just lost what little you had. He would freak out because there's a flat cardboard box in the middle of the road, and he's like, "There's a bomb underneath it." And we're like, "No, there's not."
And then he proceeds to tell our boots that we aren't shit. because
No,
Brooklyn
Yeah.
was harder. And yeah, so anyway, I'm
So,
not saying
so
Brooklyn's
yeah.
not hard, but
yeah,
Man,
we
that's another tangent we could run down for a long time.
yeah, but
Is
that's just
yeah, it's not all that fruitful. Yeah. Man, I apologize. Yeah. So half
brother.
of my
And that's
job.
hearing you just knowing that the people that we idolized or we were right to idolize them feels pretty damn good, man.
Yeah,
You
I don't know
know,
about that, but man, some of that stuff like you can't see. Yeah, you see right through it, right?
yeah, yeah, and that
Anyway,
and
yeah.
that might have been a little bit of what ruined some of the things, but that's water under the motherfucking bridge, kids. Water under the bridge.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna backcheck because I said I got more into physical fitness after the Marine Corps. That was immediately after the Marine Corps. Then I meet my wife, who, let's just say her school doesn't. If you can hear her accent, you'll understand that her school doesn't actually know what health is, and so I've let it happen, because I love cheeseburgers, but so I've gotten fat because of not too fat. I've lost like 20 pounds now, but
Nice,
basically
good for
what
you.
well, I mean, I want to go a little longer, but trying to figure out a good workout and stuff like that's been kind of annoying for me. So, what is the Captain Reed? But what does Captain Reed do nowadays to maintain the status of cyborg?
Man, I don't know if I ever had that status, but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of dumb. I do. So some guys I used to work with, we got on this like sheep hunting deal, and it sounds crazy. I
Writing this
actually got
down, so I'm
back.
going to try this shit. By the way, I'm going to try this shit. This is recommendation.
All right, so yeah, if you can imagine getting dropped off. So I got back from Alaska August 13th, something, whenever. I went up to Alaska, spent like 11 or 12 days backpack hunting in some pretty gnarly terrain and some pretty gnarly weather, in search of a bighorn sheep that I was able to find and shoot him, um, but covered a lot of miles, everything on my back for 12 days. So I trained for that kind of stuff. And in my training, I got out of the Marine Corps. I was in pretty good shape. I got out, and what I lost was kind of the focus behind working out. So I'd go through the motions, and working a lot of hours, and so diet slipped. And so yeah, man, I got out of shape, and what I found was I need something to kind of align my efforts, and I found that through, as stupid as it sounds, this sheep hunting thing, and it kind of tests everything that we use in the Marine Corps, like survival skills, fitness, borderline technical climbing, uh, long range shooting, observation tech, all that stuff. And I'm kind of, my wife would probably say that I'm obsessed with it. She's gracious enough to support me through my stupid addictions and allow me to do this. But yeah, I mean, I'm in probably better shape now than I've been in a long time, to include my time in the Marine Corps from like a functional standpoint. But I had my ACL, man, speaking of getting old, I tore my ACL last September on a sheep hunt, and didn't really know it was torn, so I gimped around on it for like 2 months and tried to rehab it through doing like heavy back squats and long distance running, and my knee never got better. And so finally went in and had my ACL replaced, and they fixed my MCL, my meniscus, had some arthritis, and I also had a torn quad in there. So I mean, yeah, that's what I do. I need a purpose to work out, and the purpose I found is this. And it sounds
Damn, you're
dumb.
so right. A purpose to work out because it's just going through the motions ain't working, man. It just doesn't
That's
work.
it. And it can't be trying to get this beach body, whatever. You know what I mean? It's got to be, for me at least, it has to be something like, I need something like, whether or not I do this stupid leg workout is going to correlate to physical performance for me down the road. And I've hunted in the mountains enough to know what it feels like to not be adequately prepared. And so it takes one of those to kind of snap you back in line and get you back on track from a training standpoint. So yeah, and I've got, one cool thing is some guys I worked with previously are kind of, and have gone on these hunts with me, and now we do this one hunt in Montana every other year now, and it's kind of scratched a couple itches. It's put some purpose into my workout. It's also got me around some guys with a similar mentality, same or similar experiences, and so it's satisfied that kind of need for me as well. Because I kind of went through like 4 or 5 years where I didn't talk to many guys from my time in the Marine Corps, just wanted it behind me. And then I got to the point where I'm kind of missing the camaraderie that you never find an adequate replacement for on the outside. And even, despite leadership's lonely, it's lonely everywhere. And, fortunately I have the opportunity to be a leader in our organization here, but again, it's lonely. And so, yeah, not a whole lot of friends because I work a lot of hours. And so connecting with some of those guys I used to work with in the Marine Corps has been healthy for me. And we share workouts and we share gear stuff and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's been like psychologically and physically, it's been really, really good for me. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now.
I've got the crew back together where that's exactly what we're, doing is like hunting. It's been basically me and Orange I'm going out there for my birthday. We're gonna kill a hog with a spear now, a 400-pound
That's
hog.
awesome.
We're gonna take him out with a spear, and I'm like, dude,
That's
I'm
awesome.
kind of sick of gun. I have a farm at my house, and it's just like the last deer I shot, I could snore dead on shot. I had a pretty big rifle bullet, but it was the hardest shot you could take. I'm like, well, this is kind of getting old for me, just shooting
Sure.
deer. So yeah,
Sure.
finding some other things to kill, which is, and I'm I doubt we're meant to kill each other as far as, I'm not saying anti-war, but we're probably not meant to kill each other, but we are killers. So
We are.
we got to
We're
hone that shit. Yeah.
We're hunter gatherers. It's just on our DNA.
Mhm.
And I would say very similar to you. Like, man, I deer hunted when I came home, turkey hunting. It's cool. Got into bow hunting real hard. That's cool. But then I went out west, right? And it's like, oh, this is awesome. Gives me something to train for. Gives me people to go with. It gives me like camaraderie that I haven't experienced since I got out. And it frankly sucks because you're up, you're getting snowed on at 12,000 feet when you're hungry, tired, cold, wet, and dehydrated, peeing molasses. Like, it sucks.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun. And it's a little bit of like adventure, right? And that's something we used to have. And so we're all a little bit of an adrenaline junkies, whether or not we want to admit it. And so for me, going out and doing that kind of stuff and putting yourself out on the edge, not to an unsafe or stupid level, but getting out there a ways, being a couple hundred miles from anybody that could help you, and just feeling that again is kind of life-giving to me.
Yes.
But yeah, man, that's very similar to you. I've kind of gone to the hunting realm because it ties in everything I like to do separately. It kind of makes a lot of sense. So yeah.
So do you make like I've been just like I got a bunch of books that I've bought, and now I have the knowledge to make like badass water filters, activated charcoal. It's such an easy thing to make.
Sure.
Stuff like that. You use, or do you just buy gear? Do you make your own gear when you go out to the woods, like the water filter and stuff like that?
I would say I'm not to the level where I'm making my own water filter, mostly because I don't trust myself. But my gear for me is and it's like on these hunts, like the preparation is as much fun, if not more fun, than the actual hunt. So yeah, I mean, I've modded about everything that I've got to make it work better for what I'm trying to get out of it. And that's
Check out activated charcoal, but it's like you could literally just
activated charcoal.
Yeah, just it's super easy to make. Get a French press, and you could get crappy water. Put if it's in powder form, you can make it into stick form. But if it's in powder form, throw it on top of a French press, and just push that shit down. What the French press does is it pushes that activated charcoal through the water. And I don't know if you knew, but activated charcoal, activated carbon, whatever you want to call it, has a very high affinity to for things to bind to it. So all that nasty shit will bind to it. And allegedly, I would boil it, but allegedly supposedly you don't need to actually boil the water when you use activated charcoal. I would definitely boil it. But
well, it's basically, that's like the same thing that like Brita filters use as a charcoal filter.
Right. Well, there's charcoal and there's activated. There is a difference because you have to add acid. The YouTube, it's super fucking easy.
It's pH based, and then on the activated side, so there's some more acidic on the activated. Yeah. Anyway, I'm familiar with it. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing thing that I think we as Americans don't stuff we don't look into and we overlook, and we pay $1 jillion for activated charcoal soap when it's just burnt wood and lemon juice. So.
Dude, we as Americans are dumb on so many levels, and that's just one of the many. Anyway, yeah. We could go down like several long tangents.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, hearing you say your piece about the leadership is lonely, and all that does kind of take away the cyborg. You know, it definitely, like, we experience, and so it reinforces what the hell I always say, said several times on this show, is that we as men, though we might be cooler than the rest of everybody, we as men experience stress in the kind of in the exact same manner, because it's just drugs in your brain. It's just
Absolutely.
so,
So
but
Yeah.
well, I think we should jump into our favorite list.
the favorite list.
So
Sure.
I'm basically going to ask you a bunch of favorites, and you can think about it as long as you need, and you let us know.
Yeah.
What is your favorite MRE?
Oh man.
Oh wait, I forgot you're an officer. You never had to eat them, huh?
Shut up, man.
Granola, bro. It's
Yeah.
granola.
I ate the fire out of some granola, that's for sure. I still
That's-
do. Favorite MRE would probably be the chicken fajitas.
Okay. Yep. Did you mix? Would you add the cheese?
Of course
Oh
not.
heck yeah, man.
What?
Dude, add the cheese.
And would you trade for jalapeno cheese spread if you could?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great answer.
The only thing I didn't mix on those is the tortillas on MREs are killer, and I'm like a tortilla connoisseur.
Yeah,
and
they're
I would say
terrible.
this, dude, they're awesome. I'd eat the tortillas, like I would separate those, and everything else would get mixed up in whatever container and eaten together. But yeah,
Yeah, I was the opposite. I didn't like the tortillas.
they've got like a sweet flavor. Yeah,
The wheat snack bread was gross, but the tortillas weren't half bad.
yeah. The wheat snack bread, man. I used to think that was good. You just can't. Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
Well, I'd eat it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not above eating it. Like, yeah, I'm gonna.
You just bitch and complain a little bit more while you're eating it than anything else.
That's right. That's right.
What's your favorite piece of gear that was issued to you?
That was issued to me. The poncho liner.
Great answer. That's also my. I almost replaced poncho liner with MRE spoon, but the poncho liner has so many uses, and it's just warmth and comfort.
It is.
What was your favorite weapon system?
240.
Good answer. What was your favorite rank?
Second lieutenant. Let me take that back. I'm gonna say first lieutenant, because you're still a lieutenant, so you get away with a lot of stuff, but you've actually been around the block enough to know a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. Yeah.
So you like being at the bottom of the hill, just not the very bottom of the hill.
Right. Yeah, I feel like people looked at you differently as a first lieutenant than a second lieutenant. It's deserved.
Yeah. So you just like to be on the trigger, like everybody else.
Yeah, man. That's what you signed up for, right? I want to be on patrol. I want to be out there. I want to. Yeah, that's it.
What was the favorite country that you visited?
Ooh, Sri Lanka.
Yeah, that was
pretty.
That was really cool.
Oh, or Guam.
I didn't see you at the G spot.
Yeah.
Man, well, dude, so Rodney Adams, Eric Willis, and I, again, this was probably going to get me in trouble. We like jumped some fences and ended up back in like the shut off portion of the base. It was closed off because of UXO from like World War II. But we're back there hiking, ended up on the beaches that they landed on in 1944, and some Japanese tunnels, and the beaches were still cratered up, and there's just inland from the beaches were. And then we found some like Japanese fighting positions and stuff, and that was pretty cool. I'm a history nerd, so Sri Lanka was cool. Just in the, we ended up running those boats. Would you guys? I forget who got to do that, but we ended up running those boats with like the Sri Lankan riverine, whatever, chasing the Tamil tigers up through those rivers. Got to do that a couple nights. That was cool. And then, but Guam was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was Schmeigs, and I know Stafford rode an elephant, and good old Schmeigs.
Oh yeah.
So, by the way, I guess I was at the G spot because I didn't know what a good marriage was at the time. So, I mean, I should not. Yeah.
You probably would not have. You would not have found me at a place called the G Spot then in my life or now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not holding it. I'm not holding it against you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, it's me and my wife talk about that crap all the time. It's literally anybody who is going through. I'm against that crap now, but back then, I wasn't. But now, like studying psychology and where I was and why people go there, it's it's just fun.
Sure.
But, yeah.
So, what piece of gear that you were issued could you have basically gone your whole career without?
Canteens.
Great answer. I was thinking those, those Molly strap things that they give you, the Molly
Oh yeah,
adapters or whatever.
I was thinking
yeah,
gas
or
mask.
those, or half the other stuff you get from SIF, right?
Yeah.
Or gas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
they just gave you shit that they knew you would lose, and then you'd have to pay them back cash
Exactly. So
or
it's a racket, man.
or steal them from your boots.
That's right.
That's all the favorites that
Well,
we
wait.
have so
Do
far.
officers eat crayons? Because we
Yeah,
do have.
well,
What's
yeah.
your favorite? What's your favorite crayon flavor?
I'd have to go green probably on the
Damn,
crayon
that's grape.
flavor.
Everybody loves that grape, bro.
Yeah,
Loves
everybody.
that grape. Green's my favorite
Yeah.
crayon by far.
Yeah, awesome.
By far, bro.
So we got way off topic, but what did you do after 1-4?
So I went to, before our deployment, where we went on the MEU, I went to MARSOC selection, got selected. So I spent some time there and ended up going to Afghanistan as an advisor in a pretty kinetic environment after that. And then kind of came back and had lost, I had said I was never going to get out. And I came back from that deployment and was kind of done. And so put in my papers and then served as operation officer for a while and then moved home. So that was that.
And
Yeah.
that was when MARSOC was still relatively new, wasn't it? They were kind of transitioning.
Yeah, there was a lot of, I would say, through the schoolhouse, there was a lot of, assessment selection was probably the most professional organization I went, the most professional course I've ever been to. And then that was, ITC was not that way. It was just growing pains of a young organization. And there was a lot of tension between like the new guys in the organization like me and some of the guys that have been around for a while, the old force guys. But yeah, and ultimately, I think that is better now, but probably not a surprise to anyone. There were some growing pains in that organization. You want to talk about like alpha males, like some of that's what that organization was fueled by. And so yeah, you had to be your best on a daily basis. And anyway, yeah, it was a good experience. Glad I did it, but glad I'm out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, shit, it makes me that seems Afghanistan had that effect on everybody. So I guess I stand by to we're not meant to kill each other, I guess. Freaking.
The whole human life thing. I think the human brain, especially the male brain, can rationalize or justify its way into or out of about anything, right? For better or worse. And I'm not making light of it. But fighting the guys we're fighting, I think, shooting those guys or seeing them get shot, like that's not a big deal. It's really not. They need to go away.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't so much that as it was. That was when the Marine Corps, the whole military, I would say, but that was like the 2012 time frame is when I came home from that deployment, and it was very like things had just shifted further away from what I would say was the core Marine Corps, and that's training Marines, that's being competent at in our case, war fighting, right? And it had shifted to all this socio-political injections that just muddied the water from what we were trying to do and served as a distraction, and there was nothing you could do about it. And that stuff ate at me pretty hard. And we lost quite a few friends in that time frame in Afghanistan, and that it is what it is. But that wasn't easy, and so dealt with some of that. And then I didn't see, and this, I'm the guy that has said previously that I will never say what we did in Iraq or Afghanistan was not worthwhile, because I feel like we've spent too much in human capital for me to come to that conclusion. But at the ground level, when you're doing the same operation 4, 5, 6, 7 times to take the same ground from the same dirt bags, and it's the same result every time, I can only do that so much before you lose me. And
yeah, well, that's literally the definition of insanity, by the way.
It absolutely is. And back to like the pressure to lead. If I'm not on my game, then I need to know when I need to step away. And I felt like that's slipping a little bit. I would say it was a fight the back third of that last deployment to stay as engaged as I should be, a fight inside my head. So at that point is when I realized I needed to, frankly, the Marines around me deserved somebody that was going to be on their game, and I needed to like check myself a little bit. And so that's when I had the, the conversations with my wife and family that I'm getting out, and yeah, I don't regret it at all. But it's been a while since I thought about all that stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
uh, you guys deserve the best individual who is on the best of his game, and it's not a game, but you know what I'm saying, is performing at his peak.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like it took harder. It was harder and harder for me to get to that level mentally. And so, now I know why they make officers do 2 deployments, to go do something non-deployment related, like go to a BBEL where you're in recruiting or you're SOI teaching, like, and you're not in the grind of a workup or a deployment. Because by the end of it, I was pretty mentally taxed, I should say, and I was struggling a little bit, on the edge of burnout, maybe. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
it's good. You hear the enlisted guy, and I'm guilty of it too, complaining, like, why aren't the fucking officers, having to do this stuff? And, we get burned out doing kind of the mundane shit.
Sure.
But, from what I'm getting from this conversation is, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff is the same stress, just a different kind of, application or, reason behind it.
The mechanism is different, right? I get stressed from being able to see that here we are trying to pour our heart and soul into planning a mission, and yet whatever staff that is pushing this down hasn't given it like 2 seconds worth of thought, yet we're the one that's expected to go execute. So this guy could, do whatever for whatever. And yeah, and then the responsibility is on me to shield that from my awareness of what's really happening from the Marines. And so yeah, you do that. And yeah, the there was a lot of days, honestly, man, where I wish, give me some mundane task. I'm gonna go paint rocks white. Like, that's what I feel like doing today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I would say the stresses are very similar. Just the mechanism by which you get there is different. But yeah, I know
So
exactly what you mean.
so yeah, so like you're kind of, I mentioned something like that. I was like, I guess why I got out too was just it didn't seem like, when I got in, my heart was in it because these guys were bad guys, and then you
Yeah.
see firsthand politics fail, and it takes away your heart. It does. It's disheartening, and I'm not blaming
You
any one person, but some of these guys that are really calling the shots, I don't know if they have been in the grunt shoes, or, you know what I mean?
No, and they haven't. And I would say that, like, man, that's a dark hole you got to be real careful going down, because at the end of the day, when bullets start flying, what's it really about? And I joined the Marine Corps as a really idealistic, very American exceptionalism, American elitism, and I still am to a certain extent. So I'm not saying I'm not. I think I'm proud of our country, and I think our country's the best in the world, and we ought to act like it, and we ought to be that. But so I joined as like a very idealistic young guy, and then you start getting glimpses of exactly what you're talking about. But then what happens when somebody starts shooting at you is it becomes about the guys to your left and right. And it sounds
Right.
cliche, but it's the truth. And it's about, like, the most focused anger I've ever had in my life has been when somebody was shooting at me or my Marines, but specifically my Marines. Cause, like, man, it's this whole nother uh, psychological, physiological reaction that you just can't explain, and it's a heck of a rush and all that. But it becomes like, life on deployment becomes pretty simple as long as you don't overthink things. And I know that sounds dumb, but it's true. Like, if you can just make it about going on this mission with these guys and bringing everybody back every time, and that's it, man. You get shot at, you shoot back. Like, you run over an ID, you deal with it. Like, you find the guy who laid it, you kill him. Like, that's what it's about, right? Life is fairly simple. It's when you start, and unfortunately, we can't keep blinders on long enough to keep life in that real narrow focus. We start, because it's how we're wired, we start looking at bigger pictures and trying to figure out why decisions are being made and what's not happening and what is happening. And that's when disillusionment sets in. And that's when we really become dangerous, right? Is when, there's probably nothing more dangerous in this world than a disillusioned Marine out on a combat patrol. And that's when, shoot, man, you see it happen in the news. Like, you see stuff happen, and I'm not referencing any particular incident. I'm just saying, as a rule, like, that's a situation we all want to avoid.
Yep.
Myself being, I'm talking to myself too, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're trying to raise this kind of awareness. People they want to talk all these crap on the police, but they're like, basically, I mean, it's not maybe as kinetic, but you got to think that they're sometimes going to see these same people doing the same thing over and over and over, and nothing's getting done, and they're like, and then they start to, like you say, they just start to lose focus, and I'm not, that's a hard topic to talk about, but
they got the hardest job in the world.
They got the hardest fucking job in the world, dude. They do it every day.
They also live in their AO. The bad guy can follow you home. Like, I remember in Sri Lanka talking to some of the snipers, and they were talking about, they seriously feared that the guys that they were shooting at in the daytime would be at their house at night. And we were lucky to be thousands of miles away from where the war is.
We're just there slapping them a high five and saying, hey, thanks, man, right? Like, that's where they live. Like, that's a whole nother but yeah, police, this whole disrespect for our law enforcement is mind-blowing to me. You want to talk about the hardest job in the world. How easy is it to clear a house when you get to throw a frag through the front, or shoot through the front door, chuck a handful of frags in, and then by the time you get in there, if something flashes across your face, you shoot until it quits moving. Like, that's not that hard. To go into somebody else's house with preservation of life being first and foremost, like your end state, like, man, that's a whole nother set of maturity. And then to get like spit on and everything else, because what happens in an instant gets armchair quarterbacked by people who have never experienced adrenaline in their life, and may or may not be the guy he shot or whatever, was high as a kite on whatever and had just done whatever. Like, there's some perspective that our country needs to get, and maybe putting on a uniform or going to walk a beat would be good for people, to get an idea of what they're dealing with.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, is I've gotten to a couple of civilian situations in a dumb, which I've quit pretty much. I don't really drink anymore, but back when I was laying on the sauce, I've gotten to situations where I've had gun drawn, and guess what? I fucking stopped, and they didn't shoot me, and I fucking did. I knew when a gun is drawn, it's like, oh shit, that's a gun.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I have a 0% chance of getting shot by a cop, and it has nothing to do with anything about my race or ethnicity. It's yes or no, sir. And when the gun comes out, guess what? Like, not that it's ever happened, but if you're respectful, and guess what? You're not going to get shot. That's 100% the truth. Anyway. Yeah,
exactly. It was just like, dude. I mean, I just was being a retard. It's just as simple as that.
That's a story for another day. So you had a cop with a gun on you.
Yeah. It's a fucking brawl that I didn't start, but of course I was finishing the shit out of it, and I wasn't listening, and then he had to pull the gun. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I should fucking quit.
I think he means it now.
Yeah, and I wasn't attacking the cop. I was attacking the individual who had attacked me, but the cop has to preserve life, you see. And
yeah,
so.
Sure.
So I'm sure we're running low on time.
Oh yeah. I got my Cameron Cash, my firstborn, he is definitely, which he was with us in the platoon, but he is definitely in some deep crap. So I gotta go.
But real quick, I just want to get, if you could give, say that you're walking, by OCS, and you had a chance to give maybe a one sentence piece of advice to, a guy on his first day at OCS, what would you say to him?
Yeah, a kid going in OCS, I would tell him that every day he's got to earn it, because you guys deserve it. And I think if Marine officers approach their careers with that mindset, then the Marine Corps would be a better place. It's about the Marines, and you guys deserve the best we can offer and provide. And it's real simple. Just they deserve the best you got. You better earn it every day, and that's what I tell them.
Well, I think that's a great lesson to end it on. And I want to thank you again for coming on and, giving us your time and your honesty and your insight and everything.
Shit, and not having to be an officer was awesome. Talking
Yeah.
to you, it was so awesome being able to talk to you like a man,
Man, likewise. Yeah, this guy's. Hey, thank you for again what you're doing, why you're doing it, and thank you for the impact you had on me as a formidable young Marine officer, and making my life way easier than it could have been or probably should have been. So, thank you guys.
Well,
Likewise.
and you're welcome on here anytime. We need to let the world see your pretty face someday.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I'll do. So, yeah, man, my schedule. I apologize again. My schedule. I'm running all around the world. Not really, but I spend a lot of time in my truck, and so anyway, yeah. I apologize about this afternoon.
Hey, man, that's okay. You did some MARSOC shit anyway, so.
And
I didn't know if that was the reason. I didn't know if that was.
If anybody's
right.
anybody listening out there needs a nice, fine automobile, they can find you at, was it Reed's Automotive? Something?
Yeah, no, reedauto.com. We've got some dealerships in the Midwest that we
No shit.
And tell them that you heard about it on All Clear, and they'll offer you a 0% discount.
Well, I mean,
that's right.
Yeah, we'll get you 0% off.
I can live with those 0% discounts. Yeah, no, if anybody mentions All Clear, man, that's we'll go above and beyond to take care of them. That's knowing they're connected to you guys. So yeah.
I am looking in reedsauto.com right now. I'm gonna.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and definitely try to peddle that. I might try. I'm looking for something, so we'll see.
All right, well,
man, let me know if I can help.
We'll let you go. You got your family stuff. You got to coach some football.
Yeah,
that's
it. An honor. For one more good old time's sake, it's been an honor, sir.
It's been my honor, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate what you guys are. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon. Stay safe and everything like that.
Likewise. God bless, guys. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Later.
Whoa.
So, yeah, that was pretty good. That's all I got. Joe, are you clear?
I'm all clear, brother.
I'm all clear. Out.